You're listening to Got Your Six, Leadership Forged in Fire. I'm Dr. Traci, a retired U.S. Army officer turned business strategist. This is where I bring real talk, real leadership lessons, and battle-tested tools that shaped me as a leader and continue to shape the leaders I coach today. Each episode gives you clarity, courage, and the confidence to lead with intention. Whether the battles you face are in business, at home, or within yourself, let's lock in, get honest, and lead like it matters.
I am so excited about today's recording because there's activity in your community that everybody knows, not because of a billboard or a title, and not because they asked for attention, but because they were there at the fundraiser, the ribbon cutting, at the school event, setting up chairs before anyone arrived and stacking them long after everyone went home. Every community has someone like that. The person who shows up over and over, expecting literally nothing. And here's what happens that most people miss. That person isn't just serving. They're leading in the best way leadership is shown, because titles are given, but leadership, y'all, is earned. It's earned in the quiet moments, the unpaid hours, the years of showing up when nobody is keeping score. And when a community finally finds and needs someone to step up and lead, they don't post a job listing. They already know the name. Today's conversation is about exactly that, what it means to serve the way leadership is pulled in, and why the strongest leaders never start asking for a title. They know how to just jump in and lead. I am so excited about today. All right. Hey, y'all. Thank you for joining me for another Got Your Six episode. We are here to have real conversations about leadership, resilience, and what it truly means to lead yourself before you lead anyone else. Again, I am your host, Dr. Traci, retired U.S. Army officer, business strategist, immersive keynote speaker, and leadership coach, but more than anything, the creator of battle-tested leadership methodology. One of the principles I teach leaders every single time I deal with people is the credibility is earned long before authority is granted. People decide whether to follow you based on who you've been, not the titles you've been automatically handed. Today's guest is living proof of that. The guest joining us today is one of my favorite people. She and I can go down rabbit holes of conversations to no end. She simply, I'm going to say this, she joined her local, look, I love doing research on people. And I love this more than anything because I've known Joy for a while and I never looked up her history, right? Look at, this is me stalking people. She joined the local chamber as a member, I think my research said 2008. She volunteers constantly, literally for everything, chairs and committees. She served on the board before she even started doing all the things she's doing. She shows up all of the time for her community. And when the Greater Crofton Chamber of Commerce needed a leader, they didn't have to look far. They already knew her name. They already knew that asking her to be in that position, like literally, I'm about to cry. Like, I know what a great leader you are in that position. I believe your title is Executive Director of the Greater Crofton Chamber of Commerce. I'm hoping that I got that correct. And you lead in your community. I believe I looked it up, over 200 members. I'm one of those members. Yay. And you build everything on connection. Please help me welcome Joy Hutter. Thank you so much, Joy, for joining me today. I hope I didn't butcher any of that too much. I know that
not at all. You did history. Perfect. If I need to search someone online, I'm going to have you help me find out their background.
I'm telling you, I'm so good at it. I love, and I hate to say like stalking people, but it's so interesting to look people up because I never even tell my own story well, right? People just don't tell their story well. That's the reason I always look up like those neat little intricacies. I knew you would never say you joined the chamber in 2008. Like those are things you just don't think about right at the drop of a dime. So I wanted people to know how involved you've been in community. I can't even imagine in the school systems with your kids in school and all the things and involvement. Like, tell us more about you that I didn't tell.
Oh my goodness. I was sitting here listening to you talk about volunteering. And one night, Tracy, we were at the dinner table with my children. Both are in college now. This was
Yeah.
during like high school. They were both kind of in high school. And my son started going, Mom, do you have a hobby? Like, I think you're the only one of us that doesn't have a hobby. And I kind of got offended. I was like, well, you two are my hobby. And then I sat there thinking, I'm like, guys, I love to volunteer. I think that works as a hobby. I enjoy meeting people. I like doing for my community. So I declared it my hobby that evening.
I love that. I love that. I mean, what in the world? Who would really ever say that, Joy? I have to say that. Most people really would not say that's their hobby. Most people would think, oh, like me, I like hiking. I love doing yoga. I like doing all these things. Actually, I like spending time with my kids. That's what I always say. Actually, is my hobby because as you're seeing now, as your kids get older, like it really has to become a hobby because they have their own lives now, right? It's crazy. I love that. But tell us a little more about you outside of that. You're so involved in the chamber now, but I know there are other ways that you do even volunteer, even outside of that.
I do. I will say I have to give a little bit of background too on my life that I do still have a foot in the door with was the years I have been with Chick-fil-A restaurants for 19 years. And if you know anything about that brand, it is all about care and making emotional connections. And through my work with them, my position was marketing director and community outreach. And my whole job, which was like built for me, was to figure out how to connect the restaurant to the community. And I have this one project that I just love as just so dear to me. It was called Passport to Serve. We actually will do it again. We had multiple restaurants, over 300 guests doing service projects throughout our county to give back. It is such a fun event, and being part of that energy, it's just something I love.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Yes, I knew you were a part of that, but I wasn't sure. And honestly, you can't find anything online much about it. You need to make sure your Google, whoever does your social media stuff, you need to promote that a little more because I know how involved you are in that. I've been at events where you show up with boxes and boxes of Chick-fil-A stuff, and it's just such an incredible thing. But just one more way that you really are integrated into the community. And honestly, everybody knows I talk about leadership, but I can't think of, and when I told you earlier when I was talking to my husband how I wanted to really end this cycle. Actually, I don't ever stop talking about leadership, but talking about service or servant leaders, you really are the epitome of that. Honestly, Joy, you are the epitome of somebody who gives your whole self. I mean, your whole self. It's not a part of Joy. I've been around you so much to know you don't ever, even at the coffee shop, you don't just get a piece of Joy. You get all of you. Anytime you're with somebody. I mean, you really are. You just give yourself to everything that you're doing. And I really wanted to take a moment to applaud you. You don't applaud yourself enough. And I know you don't. You're always, even in the last time you and I met together in person, when I was flying through town, we got together and you were literally sitting there promoting everybody else in the chamber. I love that. You were promoting everybody else.
I feel like when you do, just in general, thinking back about volunteering, it does start with care, right? You got to care about what you're doing. And even if I said like, tomorrow I'm leaving the chamber, why? And honestly, when I stepped into this role, I was really going to be a Band-Aid for about whatever many months. In 3.5 years there, Tracy. So part of that though, is I got into the chamber position and I just love small business. I grew up in a family that had a small business and I know what it takes. I know the hard work, the tears, the figuring out how you're going to make payroll at times. And so the care was there that I really wanted to continue and bring that to the chamber. I mean, we really have some great members doing really great things.
And for the community even, and so many of them do so many things for the community, but in my opinion, it's because you're the forefront of that. I hate to say that, but there's so many small businesses out there that are just trying to chug through their own life as a small business owner. We just try to chug through life, but it's you sending the emails, you reminding us to be a part of the community. You reminding us, I think I saw an email today, come out and have breakfast, like with the chamber members, like come out and do the things, right? I mean, that is really what causes all of that to happen, because everybody would stay in their little bubble. They would all be doing their own thing, but yet you're drawing people together. The ribbon cuttings where people show up and be a part of other things. But, in the years you've spent, even in the Crofton community as a member, volunteer, committee, chamber, long before anyone handed you this amazing title you have now, let me ask you though, what did those years of showing up teach you about leadership that even this new title you have couldn't have? Because honestly, you said you were in the position years. I mean, when I joined, you were in that make-believe position before
totally,
you
right?
So what would you say about leadership though before you were given that amazing 14-word title, right?
Exactly. So if I think about this question, I think back to when I was volunteering for things that might not have been like formal, right? I'm talking like being on the Boy Scout committee, PTA, HOAs, church things, and looking at when I was going to volunteer my time, what made me want to show up, keep showing up, because let's face it, everyone is really busy. We know that. And so when I'm doing something, especially in this position, you don't have to be a member. You don't have to come out. You don't have to sponsor something. So things I look at is like, have a good plan, right? People don't want to show up where it feels like loosey goosey. Like have some parameters in place so that people feel their time is going to be respected. I think that is a huge piece of the puzzle. As a person, you have to show up.
That's so true. And we talked about this before we started recording, but you're a new event that's coming up, and I'm going to just throw it out there. I don't want to say Shades of Green again. Festival of the Green on the Green is huge for the community, right? Obviously, the members come out. We all come out when I'm in town, but they have tables. Even realtors have tables. All these people have tables and food trucks, but it's more really for the community, right? I've been out there when people are just walking to get food and meeting the local people, and it's just such a great event. That is the epitome of what you do. But in my opinion, you do that twice a year. Talk about that for a minute, like from a leadership perspective, having how chaotic I know that probably is to put together, but how are you able to put that together as a leader, keeping the community in mind, not just the members, but the community also? I'm just curious about that.
Listen, at the chamber here, we're a very small team. It's me in the office and Etoy Devine. So that particular event, we have over 140 plus vendors come out, food trucks, crafters, businesses that just want to connect in the Greater Crofton area. So there's a lot of moving parts. So when I got in, I'll admit, I steal and tweak from other places I've been. I had gone to the Piney Orchard Street Festival for years, and I had been a vendor there. And they had this brilliant idea of having your number of where your vendor spot is in your windshield, right? Beautiful. It made things like so less complicated. And now, like, I hear all the time, this is the most organized festival. And I'm like, thank you so much. I appreciate that. But that does rely on volunteers. And then looking for really cool ways to connect. This past spring, we had our future business leaders of Crofton High School come out. And we talked and we partnered, and they came out as volunteers. They did work for tips to help people put up their tents, tables. They made some really good tips that day that were taking them to their big nationals FBLA event. Great way to connect the school. I'm always thinking, how can I connect my school system and young kids? Because I do have a heart for teenagers, these middle schoolers who need to learn, and they learn by doing and outside of the classroom. So what can we do to move that group forward? And it works. And then certainly I just need general volunteers for that. I do need some adults who know how to manage, aren't afraid to maybe have a voice and say, stop, you're going to run some kids over when all these cars are moving around. And gratefully I have a wonderful board of directors that really does help with that. But then others that just come out of the woodwork and say, we'd really like to help. This is a great community event.
I
People
love
care.
that.
And that's really what we've built with that festival.
Yeah, I think that leading a chamber is so unique. It's very different. It's one reason I thought about you to be on here, outside of your amazingness at pulling so many different types of people together. You're leading volunteers, like you said, you're leading, business owners. We're like cattle. You're leading us through the maze, right? But you're, but people who don't have to follow you because they don't look at your title, they look at you as a person, and they don't have to follow you because of a paycheck. How are you inspiring people to show up, to serve, to stay committed when the only thing that's holding it together is community?
When I came into the chamber, I remember I called a sponsor one time, someone who had been a sponsor quite a bit for years. And I asked if they were this is now a cold conversation. I really didn't know this person. And one of the things they said to me was, hey, I keep seeing the same people showing up at the event, so we're not going to sponsor anymore. Okay.
Oh,
Great opportunity now. I have identified the problem. Now we're going to fix that. How are we going to fix that? And,
yeah.
the other day I looked around one of our off the clock events, and one of my board members said to me, I don't know 75% of the people in this room. And I think that's
Yeah.
been done by strategic leadership of one, me personally inviting people, right? Something I
Yeah.
try to do when someone becomes a member is sit with them. I do. Cozy Bean's getting a lot of my business because that's like my off, but I feel like when you listen to a person, why did you join? What made you even sign up? And truly have a heart for that. And then as you're listening to that, start figuring out what things we can do as a chamber, event wise, to bring people
Yeah.
together. I know someone
Right.
had said to me once, hey, I think it would be really cool if we could all volunteer at a nonprofit together. So we actually had our
Hmm.
first, I'd say, mixer, if that's what you'd like to call it, at the Blue Ribbon Project. A group of us went and we served at the nonprofit. We all get to know one another, and we get to know an
Yeah, I
amazing
love
local
that.
nonprofit. And I think finding these unique ways for people to serve just keeps
Yeah.
amplifying everyone just
Yeah.
coming to
I love
events.
that. Well, and it gives diversity to those that maybe do prefer, because I have friends that do, business consulting, but they do it specifically for nonprofits and things like that. And it also gives the diversity for people that have special interests, right? In
Yes.
situations like that. And then you're bringing in that unique crowd that might not always be together. And then you have the weirdo like me who pops into town and finds out there's a nonprofit event or something like that. And I want to join into it because it's unique, right? And then I get thrown in the mix. I have to say, I think that the uniqueness for you, Joy, in that leadership piece is just the fact that and I'm not like this at all. I don't really love talking to strangers a whole lot, but you do. You dive in, you're head first, talking to everybody around you all the time, even if they don't ever become a member, even if they never even have an interest in becoming a member. You don't care. You're like, hey, come to the event. Like,
Yep.
come on
Check it
down. We're
out.
doing a
Yes.
thing. Yeah, come check us out. Oh, well, I work for whoever. I don't care who you. Come on down and check it out. And I think
Yes. Come join the party.
come join the fun, right? Because it adds diversity. And you stepped into this executive director role during a season that was such a big transition. Well, big transition of you being in that role for years, but in a transition of, I think, even in my opinion, because the couple of years that I've been a part of with you guys, is there's been a lot of fluctuation of how do we get more members? Why are we stuck? Let's add this kind of group, or let's do this. And you've been very strategic about, pulling all these pieces in, because, leadership is not tested when everything is calm. I tell people this all the time. This is one thing. It's one reason when I started my business that I absolutely refused to call myself a leadership coach, because I do not, and I say this, teaching leadership when everything is calm is trash, right? And that's the thing that you bring to the table, is that leadership is not always calm, right? It's the
No.
fluctuation of how do you get clients? How do you get business? How do you get new people involved? It's a test between the moments when things are shifting and people are looking for a steady hand, right? And I think that that's really what you really provide. I don't know if anybody's ever said that to you. I mean, I really, when I think about leaders, Joy, I really look up to you. I reach out to you, probably not often enough, because I'm always in 90,000 different places.
You're a busy woman.
I am. But when I think of leadership, you really are the epitome of that, because you tie bonds. You literally are like stringing people together, right? And I'm just curious, in the aspect of you stringing people together, what did stepping into that really as that executive at that point? I know it didn't change anything for you because you're not a label person, but really shifting that where you, because then you were able to take ownership, I feel like, right? Because in those few years where you didn't have that title, right? Titles don't matter. I always say rank didn't matter for me. That wasn't the thing. It was the mission, right? But when your mission changed and you became somebody with that title, then you have a leverage at some point. How do you feel that that shifted for you? I'm just curious for our listeners that are like thinking about that next step, or how do I take that next? Because I have listeners that listen to all the things, right? And so for them, that might be, okay, I'm just riding this bus and I'm happy with it. How did that, getting that title, that executive title for you, how did that shift that for you? I'm curious. Or do you feel like it didn't?
No, it did, because, I will say the buck kind of stops with me here, right? I mean, I think the first time maybe someone said, well, we need to let our executive director, she will advise on how that's going to go. I thought, wow, I am looked at now as like, who will be the final voice or help whatever this angle might be. So I guess one of the things I really decided to do is really set some great systems in place when I came onto the chamber. I felt like if I had some really good, solid systems, I could make really good leadership decisions and have those conversations. And not that I'm not gray and I think out of the box, but if I have these things in place, it allows me to have more flexibility when I need to. So definitely out of the gate is one of the things, and we're still working on systems that just will keep the flow going.
Yeah, because I think that that's really big. And I'm glad you brought that up, because especially as a, I know you're a party of two, but you're leading all these other people, right? Your clients are your people. They're in the building with, no, psychologically, in the building with you all the time, right? And so having that concept of you being in this role, streamlining all of that and having processes in place just makes it where you can do your job more intentionally. Right. And that's what gives you the availability to be at the coffee shop meeting with crazy people like me. Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I just had this great conversation with someone about the use of AI technology in nonprofits. And I look at it as another person. I don't have the ability to hire a huge team here. So if I can take something off my plate, that gives me more time for that one-on-one conversation that helps me put you first. I mean, my goal is I'm putting my members first, and I want you to trust me and feel comfortable. And I want to celebrate your wins. And if you need a shoulder to cry on, be there too. And that takes time. And the more I can do that, the more I feel like we just keep engaging folks. And it has to be genuine. I really do care about these folks.
That's actually what I was just going to say. I work with a lot of business owners. I mean, senior managers. I mean, I work with a lot of different people, right? But I hear this so much from business owners that I don't have the time to get involved with anything outside of my work in my community. I'm too busy running my business. But what you're talking about is exactly what they need in place to be able to do these things, right? Because even with their own business, if they can streamline, I teach people this all the time, streamline your services, guys. Like if you streamline services, you can do all the other things better, right? And so what you're saying applies to everything, even with my clients and the things that I do every single day. Because if you can't be intentional with your community, it's the same thing for them being intentional with their clients, right? Which would alleviate them being stressed where they could be out in the community, serving the community more. Because I have a lot of people I work with that would love to be able to be in the community more, and they just can't figure out how to do it.
They come to me, they say, we're so focused on the community. And then I don't see them for a year. So now I'm working to change that conversation. When I meet with someone who tells me that, I know that's where their heart is when they tell me that out of the gate. So now I try to say, how can we help you get there? Is there someone else on your team? If you're the person that's strategic in the office and doing on that, I bet you have an awesome team member or manager that you can put in your place. Don't think it's just you, that who else can talk and sing your praises and be part of this connection. And that tends to work.
So I think since you said that, what that made me think of is, what would you say to the business owner who sees the community involvement as a nice to have instead of a growth strategy? Because I think that that's exactly what you're saying.
I would love to say, guys, take the pause. You need to slow down and put your community growth strategy in place, because I can see it time and time again. Those who do, that's where
Yeah.
people feel connected to the business. You've seen that small mom and pop maybe go out, maybe the family's retiring and they're crushed because it was something that they felt tied to. But you learn to
Yeah.
feel that by, one, just offering really a great service when you come into their business. But two,
Yeah.
if you see them, sponsoring the little league team, if you see them at Festival on the Green, and they have a unique proposition there. I have this great vendor who comes, Malibu Window Cleaning. He does the funniest setup. He has kids race to clean windows on the doors of his branded vehicle. These kids think it is
Oh,
the greatest thing ever. You know how many
I
kids
love it.
will remember that for their life? And when mom and
Yeah.
dad see Malibu Window Cleaning, they think about that nice
Yeah.
connection they had. So
Yeah.
it can't be all or nothing, like some small shape or form. Think about how you
Yeah.
connect with your school system. Is it showing up for career days? Is it showing up to do, the mock interviews for, the high school students? There are so
Mm.
many ways. And that's where your chamber can really come in handy. I say date your
Yeah.
chamber, figure out what they're like. Maybe there's one or two. We're a very community driven chamber of commerce. But one call to me, I can give you ideas like, hey, some people like, Joy, I want to connect with the schools. I can tell you how to do that as
Yeah.
part of your
Yeah.
strategy of connection.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you were saying that it made me think of a very, very good friend of mine that lives in New York, and he's a business owner. He does branding, and he was talking to me about this, and he said, a friend of mine said I should join a BNI. And I said, love a BNI, but what about your local chamber? Because he does live in a very small town in New York, upstate New York from the city. And so
Mhm.
I had asked him about the chamber, but I'm curious for those people out there that don't understand the difference between a BNI because they think that's community level. What would you say? And not to insult BNIs out there, love it, love what they do, right? But what is the difference between them and a chamber of commerce?
Sure. And I gotta be honest, I've never been part of a BNI. So this is like what I've heard
Yeah.
from members who've been part of one. It's
Yeah.
very formalized.
Okay.
I think there's
Yeah.
typically one person per industry in the BNI.
Yeah.
There's usually a fee to be a part of that. It's definitely lead generating. You want to bring leads to one
Yeah.
another, which is great. That's fantastic. And I
Yeah.
know people who are part of my chamber are also part of some BNIs.
Yeah.
With the chamber, we do act very differently. We have, and I'm going to speak to my chamber, but I think that some of these would apply to every chamber. We have different committees that have different focuses. So if you want to be on our education committee, because that's where your heart is, or maybe it's a business you want to be a part of, or your business kind of feeds into that elementary, middle, high school thing, that's where you want to be. We can connect you.
Yeah.
And that crew helps me to think about projects that would
Yeah.
feed and work with our school system. We have an awesome
Yeah.
actually program we did. We did an entrepreneur grant last year. We gave 2 high school
Oh.
students entrepreneur grants to kick off their businesses, which just is really
Oh, I love
fantastic.
that.
And 2 of my
Yeah, I
sponsors for
love that.
that called me out of the blue. Really, I would say wasn't something that I would have necessarily pitched to them to be a sponsor on, but they were like, you know what? I just want to give to something that a young kid is going to figure it out, write that business plan, and just try to make it
Yeah.
work. And
Yeah, I
I
love
really feel
that.
like the education programs we do are really well attended, funded. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think for things like that too, it does draw young people thinking differently about community and business, right? And giving them that grant gave them that opportunity to think even beyond that, right? Think beyond social media, even thinking of beyond what they can do in front of them and what they can do to help their community
Mhm.
be an entrepreneur, right? Let me think. If somebody's listening to this episode, I want to, and they say, I want to be more connected. Let's say they live in California. I want to be
Okay.
more connected. I want to serve my community and grow as a leader. What is one practical step that they could take this week, even to start building those roots where they live and work?
I think it'd be hard to find a place without some type of chamber or similar. I would say one, if you're not a member, join. If you want to check it out, go to some events, talk to other members. Think about joining a committee to provide a leadership role, have a voice. I think that will help you because if I have good volunteers on my committees, that those little sectors can really begin to grow outside of
Yeah.
themselves or within the chamber, which just amplifies those businesses that are hitting a specific
Yeah.
target market, trying to do something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would, I
What
would,
if,
I would find something to join.
yeah. What if they're in an area that doesn't have a chamber? What would you say? How could they start building some roots where they live and work if there isn't a chamber, though? Is there like, just because of your involvement in community, I wanted to ask you
Mhm.
this. Like, you've been a part of the community head in for many
Yeah.
years, right? So if somebody was like, hey, they're especially young people, our son actually has asked us many times, like, I want to just be involved in something outside of a religious organization. Like, what can I do to be more involved? And I mean, obviously, we always give them good advice, but what about those people that don't have somebody to go to? What kind of advice do you think you could give them to
Sure.
make that
So I
step?
really think I would look at something. What are you really interested in? Like where,
Hmm.
is it something like Scouts? Is it something,
Oh, yeah.
like the Elks Club? I would look for these kind of maybe depending on how much time or you want to give, just start going. I would look at these type of organizations, find out what volunteer opportunities are within them. My son is an Eagle Scout, went through the whole Scout program. And I will say the leaders he met through that program are people who are still helping him
Yeah.
today. They are someone he can reach out to make a
Yeah.
connection and he can continue to volunteer with them. It's all a big circle. And I think especially when people are in volunteer roles, they're very willing to always continue that relationship and help
Yeah.
each other along. Because we all need that once in a while, right? Maybe it's a phone call,
Yeah.
maybe it's job advice. That's where my
Just to
son is
check
now. So
in.
that's
Yeah.
what's on top of my mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I love that. I appreciate that because I didn't even think about Scouts. Actually, our daughter went through Girl Scouts until she was in high school. Girl Scouts don't have anything like Eagle Scouts to make them want to go further. She was in high school and it was no longer cool to be in Girl Scouts. So she was like, I'm done, mom. And it was hard to make her
My
want to
daughter did
stay
the
because
same.
not like Boy Scouts. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's hard, right? I think they need to come up with something that whoever's listening, if you have anything to do with Girl Scouts, come up with something like Eagle Scouts for girls, right? I could literally, I could talk to you literally all day long, Joy. I'm definitely going to think of other reasons as the year goes long to have you back. But, you are the proof of something that I say all of the time is that leadership isn't about the title you hold. It's about the trust you build, right? You build a trust in people every single day, and you built yours one relationship, one event, one act of service at a time. But I have to say, before I let you go, I didn't give you this warning beforehand. I do a lot of times,
Oh,
but
okay.
is my question. So I asked this to everybody that's on. One piece of advice you could give again, our listeners are global, they're worldwide. What is one piece of advice that you could share with them just regarding leadership or community? What is just one piece of advice, one thing they could walk away today and do to be either a better leader or a better person in their community?
Okay, you might laugh at this, but I had it in my notes as I was thinking about things. I really think to be a good leader, you can't be afraid to clean the toilet. You have to be the person who's willing to do it if you're going to ask
I
other
love it.
people to do it. And they have to see
There
you
you go.
actually clean the toilet at some way, shape, or form in some
Yeah.
part of the life.
Uh,
Because life is not about just being the person behind the desk and not sweating and putting in the
yeah.
grunt work. So I think you need to
Yeah.
be willing to get your hands dirty. And
Yeah.
if you'll
Right
do
there.
that,
I
people
love
will.
that. Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna get a
people
t-shirt
respect you
made.
differently, even. You should. How
Clean
many
the
toilets have
toilet.
you cleaned? How many toilets have you cleaned? I love that though. When I was in the army, it's funny. Even now I have such a good rapport with most people I served with in the military. And the bad part was because I was always the one out there wanting to help my soldiers, like if they had to do yard cleanup or like when we were in Iraq, I'd go in every morning and sweep the floors and then my soldiers would get in trouble because I'm sweeping the floors and they would be like, wait, but she wants to do that. Like you can't tell her not to, right? She wants to do that, but it gives a different rapport, right? It lets
It
them
does.
know you're willing to do the work with them, no matter what it is, right? I'm willing to dig in. I love that you said that. Actually, that is, I don't even think I would have thought of that, but yeah, get a T-shirt that says, "Have you cleaned toilets lately?" But let me ask you this, only because I did bring up the Festival on the Green. I really want to leave our listeners. How can they find more about you? I mean, obviously come to Crofton, North Carolina. Good
Sure.
God, what state am I in? What, Maryland? What else can you tell our listeners? What links are we going to put in there for them? Talk to us a little bit about what you got going
Sure.
on right now.
Well, for your Marylanders who might be able to feed in and show up physically with our events, just visit us at croftonchamber.com. We'd love to see anyone come out to our festival on the green, which is these last Saturday of September, which my days are all, I'm getting ready to send one off to college again. What is that? The 26th of September. So please come out. That's a great, great family event.
Yeah.
We have a lot of just great programming. So look for that on our website, leveraging your LinkedIn profile, maximizing your SEO. We have so many great things that I think everyone can take advantage of. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Joy Hutter.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you what, anybody that's listening, if you think that you can't reach out to Joy if you live in California, you're wrong. Contact Joy. She will find you a resource somewhere. She will find you a chamber. She will find you a Boy Scout group. She will find you a school, soup kitchen, whatever it is, wherever you're at, Joy will help you be a better part of your community. Thank you, Joy, so much for being on here with me today. I really appreciate you. I don't get to see you enough. Again, I accidentally said North Carolina instead of Maryland because that's the state I'm in right in the moment. Forget where the heck I am all the time. But I really appreciate you, Joy. And actually, I really need to reach out to you because I want to get a table. I'm actually going to be in town during Festival on the Green. I wasn't thinking I was going to be, so I'll shoot you an email about that. I'm actually really excited about that because I wanted to do the one in the spring. I think you might remember I sent a message, oh no, I can't be there. But now I'll be able to be there. People that dive into the community, the show leadership in the way that you do. So I just really appreciate you spending the time with me today and sharing everything you shared for our listeners globally, wherever they're at, that they can learn and grow from a person like you. Thank you so much, Joy.
I appreciate it. Thanks for asking.
I just really want to say what an amazing session that was with Joy. What a gift to have her on here with my listeners listening to her. She's such an amazing leader, a servant leader to the finest tea and explanation, honestly. Y'all, I want you to just sit with this for a minute before we close out today, because what Joy just described is not luck. That's not being in the right place at the right time. It wasn't even what you know or who you know. A lot of people say, oh, the expression of who you know and what you know is what gets you places. But I'll be honest with you, it's not that situation, because what she just described is who she is through and through. After we hung up, she said, Joy is her name and she doesn't like hurting people's feelings. And that really, honestly, that is who she is through and through. That's years of deposit on time, deposit of trust, deposit of showing up when nobody was keeping score on how often she was a part of events. Seriously, y'all. She's there no matter what people need. That's why I said, I don't care where you live. If you need to know anything, reach out to Joy. She is on LinkedIn. Here's what you need to take away from this. You don't have to wait for a title to start leading. You don't have to wait for permission to start serving. Look around your community, your neighborhood, your industry, your circle of friends, even. Somebody there needs what you have. And every time you show up, you're not just serving them, you're building something in yourself, credibility, character, connection. That's the battle-tested way. It isn't about waiting for the big moment. It's about being ready for it because of everything you did when nobody was watching is what builds your character. If you're looking for deeper conversations, ongoing leadership development, and community of people committed to becoming stronger leaders, I'd love to welcome you into one of my membership communities. Whether you're a business owner, senior leader, manager, or simply someone committed to personal growth, there is a place for you in my membership groups. You'll find a link in the show notes to schedule a collaborative call with me. During that call, we'll identify which community best aligns with where you are in your leadership journey. These are groups I don't allow people just jump into. Sorry, it's not something I'm just going to send a link to a sales page. This is collaborative. These groups are something that are meant for you to share as much as you receive. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and like, leave a review, and share this episode with somebody who could benefit from today's conversation. Every share helps us reach another leader who's committed to growing with personally and professional growth. Until next time, lead with courage, lead with clarity.
Take care of your people, take care of yourself, and remember, I've always got your six.
Leadership isn't found in comfort. It's forged in fire. Life will test you. When you create stability through your choices, you don't just calm the chaos, you build momentum. Stay steady, stay strong, be decisive, and most of all, lead with intention. And remember, I've got your six.